Like, don't be dry. Just don't be dry. Be a little juicy. That's what I like to say. Like, don't be dry, be a little juicy so he can be juicy back. That's the only way it's gonna work. Like, you wanna slide into somebody's DMs and have a back and forth. Like, you gotta be juicy with them. Because if you're dry, like, no one wants to have a conversation with somebody who's dry. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Taking on Your 20s. I'm your host, Carla, and let's take on our 20s together. So I'm super excited about this week's episode, not necessarily because of what I'm talking about, but mostly because I think I've had a little epiphany, okay? I've had an awakening. I was doing some self-reflecting. I was listening back to past episodes and thinking of how I could make it better. And I realized that I'm definitely myself in the episode, but I'm not 100% myself. Like, the way that I talk in person is much more like aggressive and to the point. And I feel like in the previous episodes I've recorded, I've definitely been like nervous because I've never really sat in front of a camera with a microphone and talked to it before. And I've been mostly nervous because my boyfriend's in the other room next door, and a part of me thinks that he's like eavesdropping on me. And like, I don't think he is. Like, he's minding his own business, watching his show, but I tend to overthink things. And I think that I've been making myself nervous because I'm like, oh my God, he's pretending to watch a show just to eavesdrop on what I'm recording, as if like he doesn't hear me talk all day long, or as if he's not gonna listen to the episode when it comes out. Like, it doesn't make sense. But I think once I realized that, and I was like, I need to stop being so crazy. Like, he does not care what I'm doing in here. In fact, like, he's completely busy in the other room doing something else. I just need to let that go. You know, like, don't worry about being judged, Carla. It's fine. So I think since I realized that, it's making me feel more soothed to record, because sometimes I do get nervous right before recording. So I'm really excited to see where this new realization takes me. So I want to start out by saying thank you so much to the listeners that I have. If you're a new listener, thank you for listening in today. If you're a listener who's like been an existing listener, thank you for returning. I appreciate it so much. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, but you want to watch instead, you can head over to YouTube. I post every episode that I record in a video format. So if you want to watch the podcast, you can. If you don't necessarily want to watch it, but you want to, like, maybe you're cleaning your room, maybe you're cooking dinner and you want to put something on the TV, but you don't want it to be like a show that you have to pay attention to, throw on the pod. Like, I'll just be on your screen talking to you, but it's like informal, you know, like we're just having a conversation. And then if you really, really want to, you can head over to the podcast Instagram. It's at Taking on Your 20s, just like the YouTube is also Taking on Your 20s as the podcast name. So on any platform, I'm Taking on Your 20s if you're interested in looking, and you can follow me there. You can message me. You can give me your questions, comments, critiques. I'll happily take critiques. So let's get into this episode. So the last episode I recorded was talking about how hookup culture is toxic and why I think it's toxic. But I definitely wanted to have a little more fun this episode. And since that one was more so pointing out the negative aspects of hookup culture, I did touch on some positive ones. But in this episode, I want to talk about some of the tips and tricks that I've used, that have worked for me, that my friends have used to, you know, start talking to somebody, maybe start hooking up with someone or start dating somebody. So yeah, all of those things, to start a situation with somebody and to see how that goes. So this episode is how to start a situationship. I would like to preface this by saying the methods are going to change or going to vary depending on what the outcome is. And also, it definitely varies now because of COVID. Like, you shouldn't even be hanging out with a new potential hookup anyway. Like, just wait until COVID's over. They'll still be there. You'll still be thinking they're attractive. So that's not going to change anything. But I'm going to talk about this as if COVID wasn't a factor right now. And then towards the end, I'll say how I would tweak things now that we're in COVID. So I think the approach is different depending on if you want to talk to somebody, to go on dates with them, and to maybe not necessarily have anything physical at the beginning. So to see where things can go in terms of growing a relationship with the person versus if you're just trying to hook up with the person, or maybe have a consistent hookup buddy or a friends with benefits situation that then may grow into a relationship, but that's not necessarily the goal at the beginning. So let's start with just the hookup aspect. Let's say you just came to college. I remember when I just came to college, and there's all these new followers you're getting on Instagram, all these new people that you're meeting all the time. So you're getting a whole bunch of snaps, a whole bunch of Instagrams of people. Some are classmates, some are people that you only see as a friendship interest, but some may be people that you have a romantic interest for. So my biggest tip is to be confident in what you're doing and what you're saying, because there's been things that if my friend's texting a guy and they just started talking and she's like, what should I say? And I'm like, say this thing. And they're like, no, that's too bold. And I'm like, oh, I've said that before and it worked for me. So there's no reason it's not going to work for you. So I think the first thing is to be confident in what you're saying. And my experience has been having romantic relationships with men. So I'm going to talk about what I think works best with them. And then also what men can do with women as well. I wish I had more knowledge about what women can do with other women, what men can do with other men, but I don't have experience in that. So I feel like if I talk on it, it's what do I know? I've never been in that position, but I definitely am working on having a friend of mine on who can definitely touch more on that, who has more experience in it. So let's start with if you're looking just to start a hookup physical relationship with somebody. So maybe this is somebody you followed on Instagram for a while, or even if for a while, it could mean a couple weeks, a couple months, doesn't matter how long. You've definitely seen this person in person before. So maybe in passing on campus, maybe you've seen them at a party, but you already know you've had them on Instagram. If you're too nervous to go up to somebody in person, which used to be me when I first came to school, I would say the best thing you can do is to message them directly about something they posted. So maybe if they if they recently posted themselves walking a dog, maybe slide up on their post on Instagram or Snapchat and mention how cute their dog is. Start the conversation there. Or if they recently posted being in the library, you can just, maybe you weren't at the library, but you can be crazy, I didn't see you there. I was just there too. Or crazy, I just missed you. I just left when you probably got there, or something like that, just to see where the conversation goes. Because with that, depending on their response, you can gauge if there's interest there, if there's disinterest. They may open it and leave you on opened or read. If they do that, don't harass them. That never works. Harassing somebody or continuously sliding up or DMing somebody about what they're posting, if they're not answering or if they're just not opening the message, they're not interested. And I would say, actually, before you do any of these things, try to find out if they're in a relationship, because you can save yourself a lot of time and a lot of wasted energy if you find this out. So maybe this is a guy who doesn't really post his girlfriend but has a girlfriend, and it may not take much research to find out that she's in his life. So maybe you can look through tagged pictures. Has any girls recently tagged him in a picture that's giving off girlfriend vibes, you know? If a girl from a year ago is in his tagged pictures, but since then there's nothing, maybe that's not going on anymore. But if it's something that's like from 3 weeks ago and it's like had the best time with my bae, maybe that's not the best person to be hitting up. You know what I mean? Just because they're in a relationship. So even if they message you back, there isn't going to be as much interest in you probably as you have in them, just because they're in a relationship. So they're going to have to be cautious when they message you. They're going to be like sneaking and lying. So it's not going to be a hookup that you can have consistently that may be worth your while. So that would be if you're not brave enough to talk to the person in person. Something that I have found that works really well with men, so well, is maybe, like, again, if this is somebody you've seen before, maybe you guys happen to go to the same parties and you guys already have each other on social media, walk past him, brush past him, and say something like, oh my God, you smell so good, if he's wearing cologne. If he's not wearing cologne, don't say that, because he's going to be like, thanks, I haven't showered in 3 days, and think it's okay not to shower for 3, 4, 5 days. But if he genuinely smells good, compliment him on that, and then just keep going. Like, be like, wow, you smell so good, and keep going. Mind your business. Act like he doesn't exist after that, because now he's like, oh, I've seen her before. We follow each other on social media. Now I know she's noticed me. I know she's complimented me. So there's at least one thing she likes about me, which is the way I smell. So now he may think the door's open. Or if not open, he'll at least know it's ajar because you've complimented him. So even if down the line you decide you're not interested anymore, maybe a friendship can grow from that, just because there was that initial interest. Or something that I think is also dependent on where you go to school, what the type of vibes are at the school, what type of parties you go to. If, for example, like I would go to a lot of Spanish parties where there were people smoking hookah all the time. So many times I would have my own hookah and we would like be smoking, like me and my group of friends would be smoking our own hookah. But if we didn't have one, a good thing you can do is go up to somebody and be like, hey, can I take a pull of that? Or like joke around and be like, hey, I'm next on the hookah or something like that. And that immediately is like, you can tell right then if you're going to be invited or not by their reaction. So if they kind of look at you and are like, no, like this is my hookah, then be like, oh, my bad, I'm sorry. Like, move on. Don't push it. There's no need to embarrass yourself. But if the response is like, yeah, of course, that is probably the best scenario, because hookah is a social thing. You stand there or you sit there with the group of people until the hookah's done, until there's no more smoke left. So you're going to be near this person for an extended period of time. So if you're invited in to smoke the hookah, you can smoke. You're probably with a friend. So there's less pressure of like, okay, you're in this group of maybe like 4 or 5 people and it's only you and you don't know who these people are. And you're trying to talk to this guy and it's like, is this the right time? Because your friend's there. So you can talk to him casually, talk to your friend. Maybe you're talking to the whole group. This is just about getting his attention. So we're not being bold yet. Like, we're going to be bold down the line, but right now we're just, having a casual conversation, making sure he notices you, making sure there seems to be some interest there, but at the same time, not giving him all your attention so that he's not, like, he can't know that you're interested. Like, he can't get a 100% vibe of like, oh yeah, she wants to fuck tonight. Like, he cannot know that. What he needs to know is she's here, she's smoking hookah, she's cool, like, let's see what's up. Because we're gonna have to make him work for it a little bit. Like, he can't just think you're gonna walk up to him, smoke some hookah, and it's gonna be that easy. Like, no fucking way. That's not how it works. So after that, this is where, again, it kind of varies depending on what you're looking for, because if it was up to me, I would probably leave it there, close the book, and then, I don't know, like if you already have him on Snap or on Instagram, you can always wait until the next morning, because chances are, and from my experience, if you've had an extended conversation with this person, you were hanging out in a group. If he's interested, chances are when you left the party, he already hit you up and said, hey, after party at this place, or hey, do you and your friends want to come over to my crib or to my boy's crib to keep smoking hookah and hanging out? So if there's really genuine interest, he will probably reach out again. And then now that's up to you. If you go with your friend, if you go alone because you're plotting, if you don't go and maybe you're like, no, I gotta go to bed, I have work in the morning. Like, whether you have work or not, if you do have work, go to bed. Like, don't go to work tired for somebody else. But if you don't, you could always leave him wanting more. Like, be like, thank you so much. No, I would love to, but I have work in the morning, I just can't. Like play them a little bit, because ultimately, from my experience, men are pretty predictable. If they're interested, or if you play them the right way, they're going to show their interest before you have to show their interest. So now their cards are on the table, you know what's good, and now it's up to you. The ball's in your court, which is probably the best position you can be in, because now you know he wanted to hang out after he already spent some time with you. So now you can initiate some sort of talking back and forth. Maybe the next weekend, like his group of friends and your group of friends hang out together to pregame or something like that, just because he wanted to invite you over. So he was like, okay, why don't you come over with your friends? So now again, we're in another casual setting. It's really comfortable. There's no pressure to do anything. There's no pressure to like be like having to have a conversation if you're a nervous person. Like, I tend to get a little shy around new people. So if I was alone with somebody for the first time, I may be like, okay, like, I don't know what to talk about. I don't know what to say. Like, I don't really know this person, so I don't know their interests. I don't know, like, I don't even know if we vibe like that. And if you're interested in just the physical aspect of potentially having a hookup, then being an interesting person to talk to is not that important. Like, if I just want to have sex with you, you don't have to be that interesting. Like, why does what we talk about matter? Because we're not going to be talking anyway. Which is why I said, if you're looking for something more long-term to blossom into a relationship, this is going to be a different approach. But we'll get into that a little further into the episode. So yeah, you can either, like, after the first initial, let's call it initial contact. After the initial contact with the person at a party or at a bar or something like that. I'm saying party because I turned 21 in October. I've been to bars beforehand, but now that I've turned 21, I haven't been at a bar for extensive periods of time. So the majority of my going out experience has been college house parties. Like, I did that for 3 years straight, whereas bars I did some in high school, a little bit in college, but like in college, it was mostly the houses. So if after the party, you're like feeling him, you want to go home with him that night, then make the move. Like, if you're leaving the party, you can ask him like, hey, what are you doing later? What are you doing after? My thing with that is I normally like to let them be the one to ask to hang out like that. Just because I don't want that to be on me. Like, unless I've really, really, really like maybe like been really horny or thought they were extremely attractive for a long time, and I'm like, okay, finally we're talking, like, I'm gonna make this happen. I normally let them initiate the whole like, hey, what are you doing after the party? Or do you want to come over later? Or can I come by your place or something like that? Just because I'm not that forward to like be like, hey, come over to my crib. But if you are, all power to you. That ties right into the whole confidence thing. I think I'm just not confident or forward enough to do it myself. But most of the time, if you play them right during the initial contact, you don't have to do it yourself. He'll do it. So if during the initial contact you were like fun, bubbly, like making good eye contact with him, but then also talking to his friends so that he doesn't feel like you're giving him all the attention, he needs to feel a little neglected here and there. So like, talk to him, be like, yeah, super interesting. Like, I love business majors. They're the best. And then turn to his buddy and be like, what's your major? And he'll be like, communications, and be like, wow, that's even cooler than business. and like make him feel some type of way, because now he knows like, oh, she was just looking at me some type of way and we were talking. She seemed interested, but like she just told my buddy communications is better than business. Like, does she really want me? Does she not? Like, make him a little confused. And it can be with simple things like that. Like, you don't have to wait to be talking to a guy to mess with his head. Like, you can meet a guy initially and mess with him without him even realize you're messing with him, because you're doing it so smoothly that he's like, in his mind, he's like, oh, she genuinely thinks communications is better than business. No, I don't think that. I don't think either are better than the other. I think they're both whatever. But I said that intentionally to get you to feel some type of way and think that I'm giving your friend, like, I'm being more favorable to your friend than to you. So yeah, sorry, I just got completely off track. But if you're interested in hanging out with him after that initial contact, do your thing, say what you gotta say, go to his crib, do the dirty, invite him to yours, whatever. If you don't want to be the one to ask him, if you played the initial contact right, you don't have to. After the party, most likely he will ask, hey, do you want to come over? Do you, like, he may ask, like, do you want to come over? And then you know it's good. Or he may be like, hey, do you want to come to my friend's house? We're going to be drinking. We're going to be smoking hookah. We're going to be siphoning, whatever it is. The list goes on. We're going to be playing pong. We're going to be drinking beer. I don't know. I don't drink beer like that. No one has ever enticed me with a beer. In fact, I think if somebody said that to me, I would be like, no, thank you. I would rather not. But some girls like love beer. And I think that's awesome. I can't do it. It makes me feel super bloated. I feel like I go into a party like one size and then I leave like 3 sizes bigger just because I drank a couple beers. Like, it's just not for me. So if he hit you up, then that's up to you and your friends. You can like go with your friends to his group of friends to have a little more, time together in like a casual group setting. But now you're not in a party anymore. You might be in a living room where instead of it being like 50, 60 people at a party, now there's like 10 people there. So now you can give him that more one-on-one attention. You can play less games with him. Like, he will now see that you're more interested because he expressed the initial interest of wanting to continue to hang out with you. My tips with this is like, for every bit of interest he expresses, you express a fraction back. So if he's like, hey, come to my friend's crib with your friends, we can hang out, go. Express interest because you're returning the interest he expressed. But then after the fact, when you leave, like, let him try again, like, it shouldn't be, okay, you leave and then the next day you're like texting him like, oh my God, can we hang out already? No, like, chill, let the week pass, go to your classes, he'll go to his classes, the next weekend will come up and he'll be like, oh, that girl I met last weekend and we hung out at the party and then she came over after, I really liked her. I thought she was cool. I liked her group of friends. So let me invite them over again. So that's if you want it to turn into a hookup, because then those casual hangouts can turn into, like private hangouts or a private hangout that will lead to hooking up. Now, if you want to start something off with somebody and already have the intention of like, maybe you've been in classes with them, or maybe you've already seen them at parties and you find them attractive and you're like, okay, but I don't want to just sleep with them because they're an attractive looking guy. All the girls just sleep with him. So I want to stand out and make sure that I'm like different. Like, I like him. So I don't want it to be just a hookup and then he doesn't look in my direction again. So the approach is going to be a little different, because if you've never met him before, this is definitely where you want to slide in talking about something he posted or something that seems like he's interested in. I don't think, like, if you just want to hook up, I don't think there's anything wrong with like being like, hey cutie, hey, like, or if he posted something, like maybe he posted like a full body picture, like you can like, I don't know, you could like say something like complimenting him on it. But if you want it to be more than that, I think sparking a conversation is the best way to go. So maybe he posts some food. You can be like, oh my God, like, where's that food place? Maybe he'll tell you, oh, it's this like really fire sushi place that's downtown. And then you can start a conversation from there. So you can be like, oh, I've been trying to look for a place that's like nice, but not like, that's nice, but not too dressy. So like nice, but still a little casual. I don't know. Say something where he can respond back. So like, don't say something where it's like, oh, that's nice, because he's not going to answer that. Like, or he may and just be like, yeah, it is. Like, don't be dry. Just don't be dry. Be a little juicy. That's what I like to say. Like, don't be dry, be a little juicy so he can be juicy back. That's the only way it's going to work. Like, you want to slide into somebody's DMs and have a back and forth. Like, you got to be juicy with them. Because if you're dry, like, no one wants to have a conversation with somebody who's dry. Express interest in whatever he posted. Everything you say, try to leave it open-ended so that he has to respond and elaborate a little bit. And if your responses are open-ended where he can give some sort of like explanation and he's giving you one-word answers and like he's being super dry, end the conversation. We're stopping right there. There is no reason that you're going to be super juicy and he's going to be super dry. Like, the juice needs to be met with more juice. If it's not, if you think that, if you like know he's single, so there's no reason he should be dubbing you, and you're like, I'm a pretty cute girl, like he should be, you know, he should be interested, then there's no reason that he's going to be dry with you. So if he is dry, it could just be maybe he's been talking to somebody and it's a little serious, so he's like not even trying to entertain. Maybe he has a secret girlfriend. Maybe you're not his type. All three of those are reasons to just stop. Like, there's no reason to keep pushing it and then making yourself feel dumb because you had a few more back and forths where he was super dry. So if he's being, you know, like juicy back about this sushi place and you guys are talking about it, if he's interested in you and you guys have already been following each other, maybe he's already been liking your pictures, so you know he's seen you. Like, he's seeing you, he's liking what he sees, he's liking the pictures. There's a chance that he's gonna say, oh, we should go here sometime. Because you're talking about a sushi place, you're expressing interest in going there. He's been there, he's probably there at the moment or was just there earlier that night. If he's interested, he will most likely say something like, we should go. And I think you should take that opportunity and run with it. Like, I have talked to too many men that were like, oh yeah, I know this place, we should go. And then we never go. No, we're not about that. We're not about people like who are all talk and no action. If he says we should go, then you should be like, yeah, definitely, I'm so down. And then start talking about something else, maybe. I don't know. Like you can ask him what he's doing that night. Like, if you happen to be going out, you can be like, all right, I'll talk to you later. I'm about to go out with the girls. Something like that. Because that leaves the conversation at, you guys are going to go get sushi sometime at this place that you both are interested in. Clearly you both want to because he offered it, you agreed. And now you're kind of leaving him there. Now you're not letting the conversation drag on. You're not letting the conversation get boring or get dry to the point where now you're like, I don't know if I want to anymore, to the point where maybe he's doubting it and doesn't want to anymore. So I always think when the conversation's going best, wrap it up in a tight little bow and leave it and walk away. Especially when you first start talking to somebody, because chances are, like, if you're telling somebody, like, oh, I'll talk to you later, I'm going out, he may be like, oh, I'm going out too. Where are you going out to? Oh, I'm going to 123 Lane. Or I'm going to be on this block all night. Or I'm going to go to this bar. Like, if he wants to see you badly, he will most likely be like, oh, that's crazy, I'm going to be there too. Even if he wasn't going to be there, like, he'll be there. If he wants to see you, like, now and doesn't want to wait and maybe had plans of going out but didn't know where, now he knows where. He's going to be at 123 Lane. He's going to be at that bar you said you were going to be at. He said he's going to be at that block that you mentioned just because now he wants to see you. But let's say he says, like, okay, like, have a good time, whatever. I definitely think things have changed a little bit because I personally don't use Snap that often anymore. I'm also in a relationship. I use Snap more when I'm not. Like, that's probably my best method of entertainment. Like the main person I'm talking to, I'll be texting them. There might be somebody I'm DMing, but like if I have like a couple people on my roster, I'm most likely talking to them through Snapchat, just because it's so convenient. Like I can send them all the same thing in the morning and send them all the same thing at night, and then have our own little mini conversations in between. But it's easy to keep track of everybody. They're all in one place, and I don't know, it's just an easy way to go. So if this person whose DMs you slid into, maybe on IG or something, you have them on Snap, this would be a good time to add them to your list of people that maybe you're snapping. So you can always like snap them the party. You can always snap them like, I don't know, like you smoking hookah, you drinking. You can always like post the thirst trap. That's probably one of the best things you can do. If you were having a good convo, but you could tell it was like wrapping up, so you wrapped it up yourself. Like instead of trying to keep it going, you wrapped it up, said you were going somewhere. You post on your IG or post on your Snap like a selfie or like a pic of your outfit or something like that, or post where you're at. Most likely he's gonna say something about how you look. He's gonna compliment you. So now you can have a whole new conversation with him because he started off by complimenting you. You can thank him. He may be like, oh, where are you going looking like that? You can have a whole conversation about that. So instead of the conversation having to transition on its own from getting sushi to looking good and going out to a party, you made it happen by kind of tricking him into making it happen. Do you see what I'm saying? A lot of this is like, I call it like planting seeds. That's probably my favorite like phrase for it. Like you have to plant seeds with men if you want them, if you're interested in him, but you want him to shoot his shot to you. And like, I saw this thing on Twitter. I mean, I saw it on IG, but it came from Twitter first. And it was like, girls shoot their shot by posting a picture or something like that. And it's like, that is so true. That is 100% true. Like if I start talking to somebody new, you best believe I'm posting thirst traps. I'm posting maybe like a picture from a couple weeks ago that maybe I saw that he didn't see, so now I'm gonna repost it and make sure he sees it. Or if it's like a snap memory where I looked really good, that's a great time. You can post that because then he's going to be like, oh shit, like maybe a year ago he didn't have you on Snap. He didn't see that picture. That's nobody's fault. So now I'm helping you out by putting this on your feed, so you can see it since you missed it the first time around. You're welcome. But once you've like initiated something, either initiated contact, if you've met in person, or initiated a conversation, post a thirst trap, let him compliment you, let him thirst for you a little bit, and then, but like, don't hang out with him until he's like, okay, are you free Friday to go to the sushi place? Because like I said, like too many guys will be like, we should go to this place, we should go see this movie, we should go to this park. Like maybe you'll post like an art painting or something, and a guy will slide in and be like, oh, you like art? Me too. Like, we should go to a museum. Yeah, I'm so down. And then a couple days later, he's like, hey, do you want to come over? Is your crib a museum? I don't think it is. So why am I going over there? You offered we go to a museum. That's where I want to go. I don't want to go to your house. Like, what's going to be there? Like, an empty toilet paper roll? I don't want to see that. I don't want to be part of that. So post your thirst traps, have a conversation with him. If he's like, hey, come over, be like, I can't, I'm doing homework. I can't, it's my friend's birthday. I can't, I'm chilling. Or just maybe if you simply don't want to and you're bold enough, you can just be like, I don't want to. Again, I'm not bold enough. I don't really tell people I don't want to. I more so give excuses as to why I can't. And then especially if it's somebody I am interested in, but I'm trying to play this little game of like, okay, like keeping them waiting until we're doing an activity that isn't hanging out at home. I definitely don't want to tell them I don't want to. I don't want them to think that I'm not interested. If it's somebody you're not interested in, feel free, tell them you don't want to. There's no reason with them to be like sweet and nice about it because you're not interested. So there's never a time that you're going to regret having said that. But give them reasons why you can't see them. And then if they're really, really interested, then they're going to fall back on that first initial conversation and be like, hey, do you want to go get sushi on Friday? Do you want to get like sushi for lunch on Saturday or something like that? If they don't, then, and like they keep inviting you to come over, I think then it's time to be a little petty. Like you should say to them, like you keep inviting me over, but you said we were going to get sushi. So is your crib a restaurant? Do you have raw fish there? I'd hope not. So unless we're going to the sushi spot, I'm not linking with you. If you want to be really petty and you don't want to say all that, you can go to the sushi spot with your friends, post it, and let him message you and be like, I thought we were supposed to go there together. You were taking too long. You told me 3 weeks ago we were going to come to the sushi spot. I didn't want to wait anymore. I wanted sushi. I came here with my friends. Thanks for putting me on. I appreciate it. And see what he does. Because, like, what can he say? He's going to be like, damn, you're right. Like, 3 weeks ago I said we should go to the sushi spot. And since then I've been inviting you to my crib and not to the sushi place. So clearly this girl doesn't wait around. Like if she wants it, she's gonna go get it. And then he might get his act together. And this is gonna sound super, super, super shitty, but okay. This also varies with what his type is, like the type of person he is, because some guys will chase and chase and chase. I've known guys who have chased for years, bro. Years, like have seen me in and out and have seen me have been in multiple relationships and have never even like given them a chance and hung out with them and still try. And then there's ones that will talk to you for a couple days, and if you truly are busy because maybe you're studying for finals, they're like, all right, you're dubbing me, like I'm out. So you kind of have to understand the type of person you're talking to know how far to take the games, because like some just won't tolerate it. And like they may not be tolerating it not because they think you are like playing a game with them, they may not even know, but just because I think they don't want their ego to get shot. So like 2-3 days go by and you guys don't talk, or like a few, like he offered a couple hangouts and you just kept denying them, he may just give up. Because he's going to be like, I'm not going to keep asking this girl and she's going to keep denying me and making me feel dumb for asking. But then there's others that will keep asking. So it's important to know your audience. It's also important to know, trying to find the best way to phrase this. It's important to know where you stand, right? So like if you know you're completely different to his type, that could be a big bonus, right? Because you're different. So he may try a little harder because he's like, oh, I like her. She's cool. We talked at that party once. She likes sushi. I like sushi. Like, she's different. She's exotic. Let me see what's there. And I think it's also important to know, like, your level of attractiveness, right? And I say this to be honest, not to be a complete dick, but like my best friend is a 10 out of 10. Gorgeous girl, like the most amazing body, no matter what she eats, it's always perfect. She's like a beautiful, like Puerto Rican, 5'3". So I know that even if she's a little dry in a conversation with somebody, they're going to continue trying, and they're going to express interest much quicker than me, who's being super duper juicy over here. And they're like, fuck no, I'm not interested. Do you know what I'm saying? Like know where you stand and understand that your level of effort is going to have to increase depending where you stand. And again, if you've had classes with this person, maybe you guys have been partners before in a project or have sat next to each other, you guys already have good conversation, you guys already get along, you make each other laugh, you may not have to make that much effort, even if you're not the most attractive person in the world, because you know that he enjoys talking to you, you guys get along well, you guys laugh with each other. So you may not have to make as much effort as the 10 out of 10 Becky, who's super boring and super dry and has nothing to talk about and has nothing going on up here, because he doesn't want that. So it's like, when I say where you are in terms of level, I don't just mean physical attractiveness, but it also encompasses personality as well. If you've had the opportunity to show that person your personality in a situation. If you haven't had the chance to show somebody your personality, unfortunately, with social media, you do only see what's on the outside. So if on the outside you look great, like exactly what society says is top tier beautiful, then you may not have to put as much effort as somebody who is what society says isn't as attractive. And that's kind of unfortunate, because it's like, chances are the 10 out of 10 may not even have the best personality in the world, because like, she grew up her whole life being a 10 out of 10, so she didn't really have to like evolve it. I love to pride myself on the fact that in elementary school and middle school, maybe up until like sophomore year of high school, freshman year I started being a little cute, but like I didn't even get my braces off or contacts until sophomore year. So I was like in middle school, just like this round girl with braces and glasses, and like I didn't know what to do with my curly hair because my mom's white and grew up in Spain, so like there's like tips and tricks she learned, but my hair definitely didn't look as good as it could have. My outfits were terrible. Oh my god, I remember, this is what happens when you grow up in a white town. I remember my 6th grade year of middle school, I wanted to be like a skater girl so bad. Like, I wanted it so bad. It was, let's see, like 6th grade. Maybe it was like 2010, 2011. So like that was cool. And like, I wanted to be able to put in those like one single clip-in strand of like hot pink hair. But my hair was curly, so like I could never get those. And on top of that, my mom was like, no, you can't have it. Anyway, style was terrible. I looked terrible. So I had to be funny. Like, I had to be funny, and I had to be personable. I think that's where the personality of getting along with many people came from, because it was like, I'm already different visually, like physically, than those around me. So I want to try to get along with people, because I don't want to stand out more than I already do. And on top of that, since I wasn't the prettiest either, it was like, okay, like I have to evolve my personality a little bit. So I think once I got into like junior, senior year of high school, and definitely when I came to college, was when I grew up more. Like, I think when I hit my glow up, I had already evolved in personality. So it was like, okay, like I looked bad, but now I look okay, I look decent, and at least I have a good personality. Do you know what I'm saying? Because I can see how people who grow up from, since they're young, always told that, and like always knowing that they're the most like beautiful of the bunch, how they may evolve a little bit of like a stuck-up personality, because in their mind they're like, well, I'm the best. And it's like, maybe you're the best right now, but like, will you always be the best? I don't know. So that's why I think knowing where your level is physically is important, so that when you do these like steps, you can vary it accordingly, but also knowing where your level is in terms of personality, because like you may even look at yourself in the mirror and be like, I don't look cute at all, but like I have a really good personality. I'm hilarious. Anybody that I talk to just like has a great time. I light them up. I make them feel better. Like if they're having a bad day, they're happy when they walk away. That is so much more important. So if you can make that show in like a small little back and forth DM, do that. I think that is probably going to help the most also when it comes to the long-term relationship sliding in, because if you're looking to just hook up with somebody, it's just a physical thing. So if they're not interested physically, it's not going to work. Like, there's no point in developing some sort of friendship with this person so they can get to know your personality, like just to sleep with them once. That's way too much work. But if it's like, okay, like you want to involve something more than that, then maybe putting in that time for them to get to know your personality is worth it if you feel like your looks aren't going to do it for you on their own. So let's say you go on this sushi date and it goes well, you had a good time, you feel like he had a good time. What you do next will make or break this situationship, because if you walk away from this and don't hit him up at all, days go by, a week goes by, you don't hit him up at all, he may assume that you're just not interested, that you went on the date, you got a good look at him, you got some free food, you don't want to hang out with him again, that you used him. So it's almost like a cat and mouse game, because again, my preference is to let him text me first and tell him, and like have him tell me how good of a time he had, for me to agree with him and then elaborate more on that. So if you go to lunch or you go to dinner and go home at a normal time, like, just wait a little bit. And also it depends how the dinner went. Like if it was just like talking back and forth super casual, then maybe you can text him casually and say an inside joke of like the conversation you guys had during sushi, or wait for him to text you first. Depending what he says, then you can respond back and have a conversation off that. But if he doesn't text you, you could always be like, I don't know, like maybe if it's like a couple hours later, and you could always be like, I should have taken some sushi to go because I'm hungry again, or something like that. And then you guys can start talking about, he'll be like, damn, you're hungry already? And you can be like, well, yeah, the sushi was good. And then you can have like a little fun back and forth. Or if there was something funny that happened during dinner, you can bring it up as like an inside joke and then let the conversation flow from there. But you don't want too much time to pass, but you also don't want to walk in your front door and get home and text him right away and be like, I had the best time ever, I can't wait to see you again. Because like, someone out there may love that, but some may run from that and be like, oh my God, this is too much. I've only hung out with her for 3 hours. I can't like deal with all of this right now. Or I guess also, like I said, the vibes of the dinner matter. So if the vibes were a little, like sexual, sensual, maybe you got a nice kiss in before you went in the house, maybe you guys were holding hands. Like if that happened, you guys already broke the ice. And first things first, when he picks you up to go on this date, or if you guys meet there, I would say give him a hug. Break that physical barrier, because once you do, it's less uncomfortable. Now you can hug goodbye when you get home, which allows room for like a kiss potentially if you're down for that. But if you don't hug, then it's like, when do we do the first touch? Like, who initiates the first touch? What is the first touch? I have never touched you in my life, not even with a fingertip, and the first touch is going to be a kiss. That makes me feel a little uncomfortable. So I was like, to hug when greeting and hug when leaving. You've broken that physical barrier, you've been close to somebody, even if it's for like a 3-second like hug and go, and that opens the door to potentially more physical touching. So yeah, if you guys had a more like sexual vibe, maybe you even kissed, now you've broken that barrier. So now you can go in the house, and don't text him right away. But if he doesn't text you first, you don't have to like make up something to talk about. Like you could always be like, damn, I haven't like flirted to like initiate a new thing with anybody in like a year. So imagine times have changed. Like imagine if you're listening to this and you're like, people don't do this anymore. Like maybe I'm outdated. You think? Let's hope not. Let's act like I'm not outdated and it hasn't been a year since I've had to like do this back and forth. If he doesn't hit you up first, then you can say something regarding the time you had. Like if you guys kissed, you can definitely be like, I had a good time with you. Thank you for taking me. Like express gratitude, because like he can't feel awkward about you expressing gratitude. He's going to be like, you're welcome. Like, and then that leaves the door open for him to say, I had a great time. Like, let's do it again. Like, do you want to hang out sometime this week and go somewhere else? Or do you want to come over sometime this week? And then you can like gauge from there where this is gonna go. And maybe you tell him, like maybe you guys kissed and you tell him you had a good time and he never texts you back. And in a situation like that, I would not double text. Like if you're expressing gratitude and have just gone on a first date and he doesn't text you back, don't text him again. Don't double text. please don't. Save yourself. That just means that he went on the date. Maybe he was uncertain. He was like, let me kiss her and see if I feel something with the kiss. He didn't. Maybe the kiss was terrible. I'm sorry, girl, but maybe you just weren't doing it for him and he's not interested. And obviously the right thing to do would be for him to be like, you're welcome. Like, I had a nice time too. At least respond. And then after that, maybe ghost you after that. But I've heard too many stories of like people going on full-on dates, like having, like a friend of mine had a guy come up from the city to Albany. That's like 3.5 hours away, 3 hours away. I've never driven straight to the cities, but I think it's something like that. And he spent like a night or two and he went back to the city and like ghosted her completely. And this was somebody that she had been talking to and FaceTiming all the time for like a couple months. So I was like, damn, it's like that? Like, he couldn't even be like, oh, I had a good time, but like, I'm not as interested as I thought I was. Like, no, he just like ghosted. It's crazy out there. But yeah, once you have the first date, then like see how you feel. I'm not gonna walk you through like how to get into a relationship just because it does depend for everybody. And like I said in the last episode, a lot of my relationships have started because I was hooking up with somebody. My high school relationship, it actually started super casually. I had no intention of potentially having something more with him. It was like, I thought he was hot and I wanted to hook up with him and we started to. And then we were hooking up like all of the spring and throughout the summer. And then before school started in the fall, we had a conversation. We were like, okay, so we're together because like we've been hooking up for like 7 months now. And then my second relationship actually started also because we were hooking up, but because I ran into this guy at a party and he was somebody who had been like a friend of mine, like not close friend, but like an acquaintance friend, like somebody that I would only see out at parties or at like a coro or at like a Getty or something like that. And we would like hang out, have conversations, have a good time together and like a vibe, but we never hung out in private. And he actually pulled me into a room in a party and was like I wanted you to know that like I always really liked you last year and I never told you how I felt, and this is my senior year, so I have to tell you now before my time's up. And I was like, I did not know that. So then we started hanging out, we started hooking up, and it turned into a relationship. My boyfriend before the one I have now did start where we went on a couple dates. So like we had met at like a street festival here in Albany, and the whole thing that I told you, like if he's interested, he'll invite you back. So he invited my friends and I to go to his house to like continue drinking because we were day drinking, so to continue into the nighttime. And he wanted to hook up that night, and I was like, I barely know you, I met you today. And he was like, oh shit, you're right, I'm so sorry, like I'll take you out. So then that weekend we went out, and then after that we went out a couple more times and then started hooking up, and then it turned into a relationship. But like even before we hooked up, we were talking so much that it was like we had a feeling where it was going. And then my current relationship was kind of a similar situation, but not exactly, because it started right when COVID happened. So we had like, he's actually very close friends with my best friend's boyfriend. So I met him at a New Year's party that I went to with my best friend and her boyfriend, with actually my ex-boyfriend, and I met him there. And I just remember like seeing him and being like, oh, he's cute, but like I didn't think much more of it because I was in a relationship at the time. And then when I broke up with him, I like talked to my friend and I was like, you know, like your boyfriend's friend is like pretty cute. Like, what do you think is up with that? Like, what do you think is going on? So him and I followed each other on Instagram. I liked 2 of his pictures, and then he slid in my DM. Oh, that was something I wanted to say too. You can always, if you don't want to DM somebody, you can always accidentally like a couple pictures. Like go on their page, find a couple pictures that maybe you haven't already liked, and like a couple pictures. There's nothing wrong with that. I've done that before. And then the guy will hit you up and be like I've had a guy that I liked 3 pictures of his. He hit me up and was like, oh, you liked my stuff, with like a smirk, and the conversation just went on from there. Like I was like, oh, hee, like my bad, I was just like on your page, I didn't mean to do that, like I totally meant to do that. That was 100% intentional, but I was like, I didn't mean to do that. And it just like the conversation went on from there. And then we did end up hanging out the whole nine. But oh yeah, so my current boyfriend, I liked a couple pictures, and then he slid in my DMs and we started talking. And that did begin of like, we were hanging out in a group setting of like him, myself, my best friend, and her boyfriend. And that's how the hangouts were for a couple times. But then we went into COVID. So that definitely sped up our relationship because my friend's boyfriend would come over and my current boyfriend would come over with him and we'd be hanging out. And then before we knew it, we were like spending weeks on months on like now almost a year together, which is insane. So that's a little bit of a different situation. But I definitely think there are different methods for getting into different situationships depending on what you're looking for. And it will vary and like you have to understand who you're talking to, where you are in terms of your physical level, your personality level in their eyes. And ultimately, I think the best thing you can do in whether you're talking to the person in person with that initial contact or you're DMing them or snapping them is to have confidence, because people can tell. So if you're talking to somebody and meeting them for the first time in person and you're super timid, that's going to show. And I think people being timid and shy can be super cute, but at the same time, like if you can be shy but still have confidence. Do you know what I'm saying? So like maybe you're nervous to talk to new people, but like you still know you're the shit and you still know what you're talking about and nobody can say anything about that. So I think the key is having that confidence, knowing your audience, knowing where you stand, and knowing that you should be planting seeds. Like also every guy that you talk to is going to be different. And even though men are very predictable, like they're not all exactly the same. So something that may work with one guy that you were just talking to may not work with the next guy you're talking to. It may work with one that you talk to 3 years from now, but it may not work consecutively. So don't try the same exact things with the next person because it may not work. Like learn to adapt, learn to evolve, and see where that goes. So that's it for this week's episode. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you next week.